Jakob, thank you very much for finding the time to talk to me about yourself, about your own life journey, and how it is that you come from Sweden to be spending every Thursday night travelling on a train down from London to Farnham to rehearse with the Waverley Singers.
Well, thank you. It never feels like a big chore to travel to Farnham on Thursday evenings. I heard of the Waverley Singers through Richard Pearce, the conductor, who put out a kind of an ad to this. It was kind of it's called the Keyboard Connections, and it seemed interesting to me to be working with someone really interesting and really excellent. So I suppose I tried it out, and I have to say I was very new to the role of being an accompanist to a choir such as that. I think that it's been quite for me, I think it's been quite a slow improvement in the role for myself. However, fantastic to learn and to get to play such amazing music. The size of the choir and the sound of the choir certainly made me happy doing the work. So that's, I think, what has kept me there. Basically, the sound of the choir and the lovely personalities in the choir, I have to say.
I think you're being rather modest, if I may say so, saying that you sort of gradually improving. We were all amazingly impressed while we were rehearsing the Bach Mass in B minor at how you managed to transpose everything to a different key, so that you were never actually reading on the piece of paper what you were having to play on the keyboard.
Well, it's a funny, I was kind of almost scanning my own mind as I was doing it. It took some preparation, but not so much in that, for musicians, that if a piece is in B minor, you can kind of try, and you're supposed to play it in B flat minor. B flat minor is not a pleasant key to play in, even though I like all keys equally. I'm very much as someone who loves harmony and chords and stuff like that. That's been happening even ever since growing up.
Well, talking of growing up, tell us about when you were in Sweden as a child growing up, about your musical education, where it took you, and how you happened to come to the UK.
There was definitely a kind of a multinational, multicultural heritage there. With my dad grew up in Rwanda. He was born in Rwanda, actually, as his parents went out there in doing missionary work for the Pentecostal church in Sweden. My dad as well, to this day, he speaks fluent French and Swahili, and he loves to speak to people he thinks will know Swahili and just strike up conversations. And people are very surprised by this. But so that was the heritage. So moving abroad to me wasn't totally out of the realm of possibilities, I suppose. And the other side was that my mother always loved England and English. She's a teacher of English and German, and there was a real love for the English culture. And I remember watching the BBC World Service or something growing up, but I took a great interest in myself, even knowing a lot of the programs from BBC. I know them not from having seen them in Britain, living in Britain, but I know them from having seen them even back in Sweden. So I was mentally prepared, I think, for moving.
What was it, though, that brought you to the UK?
I studied 4 years at the academy in Stockholm, and there were plenty of people going over to London to study at the Royal College of Music or one of the other schools. So I had done 4 years there, so I was thinking I could either try to do 2 more years there, but then it ends up being 6 years in one place. And moving over to do 2 years or beyond in London seemed like a good idea. And of course it is. It's better to get some influences. So I did a postgraduate diploma at the Royal College of Music.
Right, and Richard says that you've been with the Waverley Singers for most of the time that he's been our musical director, so that's 12 years.
Yes, it must be 12 years, yes.
And from the choir's point of view, it's so good being able to rehearse with you on a Thursday night. It's always a little bit of a disappointment when it comes to the concert if you're not there, which is why the workshop is so terrific, because you will be with us at the workshop and we will be giving a performance of the Brahms Requiem for ourselves at the workshop. And it's really great that you will be able to be there and be part of it.
Yes, and I do remember a fantastic moment when we did the Bach, because there was some extra, a workshop like this is fantastic to get people to come along and join. And there were greater numbers, and I do remember the sound when we started the first. I think we started the last movement of the Bach, and the sound that came out when the choir started singing was absolutely extraordinary, I have to say. The choir does sound fantastic normally, but with the extra forces entered in, I thought this is really strong.
Yeah.
So it's a real pleasure.
Yes, there's nothing quite like that, is there? That wonderful surge of sound and the sense of everybody with a shared purpose in making music. Yeah.
Of course, it's not only about numbers, but also about the quality of singing. But I think that over the years, the choir has moved on in this respect as well, in the individual quality of singing, which is what it's all about for each member personally as well.
And sometimes, I guess, when you're accompanying, you're using a score that somebody has sort of rendered for piano. But in the case of the Brahms Requiem, Brahms wrote the piano part himself, didn't he? Because he wrote a version, Richard was telling me, for himself and Clara Schumann to play on the piano. And so the score you're actually playing to is Brahms's own score.
Yes, I mean, I think some composers favored texture of writing for the orchestra can be easier or more difficult to turn into a piano part. But this does definitely feel like a very solid a piano writing, of course, by the master himself. And, pianists are also, when we think of Brahms, we think of very big pieces. I think Brahms always tends to have a great kind of pathos, but also writing very long pieces. I mean, his first piano concerto, he had originally intended to be a symphony. And if you have a piano concerto which is a bit like a symphony, it's going to be quite long. And this is also a very long piece, obviously, but it's just no end of musical delights, I think, in there.
Well, we are very much looking forward to the workshop on the 14th of January, Jakob, and indeed we're looking forward to a full term of rehearsing the Brahms Requiem with you. And in the meantime, thank you very much for sparing the time today to talk to me about yourself and about the Brahms. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it too.